It's NFL Draft Week, and we want to get to 69,000 subscribers before the first round on Thursday. We currently need 378. Hit that sub button for daily Dolphins videos. We will also be live for every day of the NFL Draft and have you covered with every pick the Dolphins make. So hit that sub button right now. All right, this is a video I've been teasing for a while on the channel, and that we do mostly every week of the NFL Draft, but it is my final big board. We'll have my final mock draft out later in the week, but I wanted to come up here and give you my top 10 prospects at the 13th pick, 48th pick, and 98th pick. So we're going to go over 30 NFL Draft prospects, 10 in round 1, 10 in round 2, 10 in round 3, that I would like to see Miami get, and I do have them ordered in terms of my favorite to my least favorite. But I did want to quickly share an update on where the Dolphins are actually picking in the NFL Draft. Now, obviously, things could change where they trade up, whether they trade down, but obviously 13, 48, 98, 2 fourth-round picks at 116 and 135, 2 fifth-round picks at 150 and 155, and then 3 seventh-round picks for a grand total of 10 selections. So an opportunity for Chris Grier and this front office to be able to add some talent and hopefully starting level players to a roster that desperately needs it at corner, safety, D-line, and offensive line. So let's jump up into the Dolphins Today big board. This is my top 10 prospects for the first round. We're going to go with Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan, at number 1. This should not be a surprise if you've been watching our content over the past couple of weeks. He's 6'2". He's got a good fluidity to the way he moves on the floor. I like his ability to play in zone schemes. Their question is, can he play man-to-man coverage at an elite level, the next level, due to his lack of recovery speed? I think he will work in that Anthony Weaver defensive scheme. If he's on the board at 13. I know the needs at the other position like offensive line and defensive line. I am not passing on Will Johnson with the 13th overall pick. That goes even if this guy is somehow on the board. I'll put Will Campbell on my big board, the LSU offensive lineman. Now, all signs point towards New England going with him with the 4th overall pick. With that being said, though, if Will Campbell does not get selected by the Patriots at 4 and say they go Abdul Carter because the Giants switched up and went with a QB at 3, I don't know what team takes Will Campbell ahead of Miami. Maybe San Francisco at 11, but there is a real world Will Campbell is on the board at 13. If New England doesn't take him at 4, I would still prioritize Will Johnson, but Campbell would be a perfect starter at left guard, but also have the versatility to move to the offensive tackle position as well. So Campbell is my number 2 guy just behind Will Johnson. But who is your top Miami Dolphins draft target? I imagine most of you would answer Will Johnson alongside with me, but just in case you include some of these guys that could fall on draft night, who is your top Miami Dolphins draft target? Get down in the comment section and let me know. Another if he falls scenario here, Armand Membou. And I do have Will Campbell as my top offensive lineman for Miami over Membou. Membou does have good athleticism, versatility to move inside, but play right tackle as well. Another player to where I think he's certainly going to be off the board before the Dolphins pick. I think the Jets are going to take him at 7, but if he doesn't go at 7, I definitely think he'll go to the 49ers at 11 because they desperately need a right tackle. I could also see Chicago grabbing him as well at number 10. So this one's very unlikely, but he does possess good versatility, speed, athleticism to play in Mike McDaniel's offensive scheme. So if Membou's on the board, I would be intrigued with him certainly at number 13. We're going to go with my other defensive back here, Jahdae Barron. And I want to label him as a defensive back rather than a cornerback like I did with Will Johnson because Barron is such a versatile player. He can play outside corner, which he did exceptionally well last year for Texas. He can play at the safety spot. He can play in the nickel. He did it all over the field for Texas in his collegiate career. Johnson's more of that prototypical outside corner. I prefer Will Johnson, but if Johnson's off the board and both these offensive linemen are off the board, which is a real possibility, and the Dolphins are sitting on the clock at 13, Barron is my pick. 5'10", 4.39 speed, excellent coverage guy, can play in any scheme as well. I do really like Jahdae Barron. But in a doomsday scenario where all 4 of these are off the board for the Miami Dolphins, and we have to pivot, I will pivot towards the trenches defensively. I would go Kenneth Grant. He is my top defensive lineman outside of Mason Graham. I don't think there's a world where Graham slips, so I didn't even put him on the board. I think he's guaranteed to go inside the top 10 or 11. But I do have Grant higher than Derrick Harmon, than Walter Nolan, due to his motor, his size, his first step off the line of scrimmage. I think he would be a perfect fit next to Zach Sealer in the run-stopping game and getting after the quarterback. I am a massive fan of Kenneth Grant. If the Dolphins ultimately traded down from 13 as well to, like, say 18 or 21 because the team wanted to move up and the Dolphins wanted to get more draft capital, Grant would be my top guy in that late teens, early 20 range as well. I'm a big fan of the Michigan defensive lineman. We're going to get to my other top 5 in the first round here for Miami, but we are sponsored by Mando, the #1 whole body deodorant that just makes sure I'm smelling right non-stop. And with the weather warming up, I'm most looking forward to golfing with the homies and playing some basketball. And I'm looking forward to it even more because I've started using Mando whole body deodorant because unlike some other brands I've tried, it can actually handle anything. It's clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. 12 hours after a shower, the average man's grundle odor level is a 5 out of 10. With Mando, the average grundle odor level is a 0 out of 10. Mando Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products to your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. And I always have this with me. It is the deodorant wipes. It's just so perfect for on the go, whether you're just running errands on a hot day, playing sports, and then meeting up with friends afterwards, or you're traveling to a different city. It will make sure you are always smelling right if you need a quick little freshen up. And as a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code CHAT. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you use code CHAT at shopmando.com. shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. Move over to number 6 here for the Dolphins in the first round. I would go with Malaki Starks, the safety from Georgia. I have just been crushing over Starks ever since I started my pre-draft process. The fluidity that he plays with in the backfield, he can play in the box, he can even play on the line, play in the nickel, play as the free-ranging safety. I know a lot of people like Nic Emmanwori from South Carolina. I think Starks is a no-doubt star in the NFL. I think no matter what scheme he goes to, he will be able to perform at a very high level. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowler, even an All-Pro. This is a don't overthink it pick, similar to Brian Branch Jr. a couple years ago, where people overthought it. He went in the second round, and now the Detroit Lions have a star safety. So if the Dolphins traded back, or somehow all those guys ahead of him on my big board got picked, I would not complain with Starks at number 13 at all. Kelvin Banks, the offensive lineman for Texas, is going to be my number 7 guy here. Banks has the ability to play outside and inside. We know Chris Grier values the ability to play multiple positions alongside the offensive line. Just look at Austin Jackson, look at Liam Eichenberg, look at Isaiah Wynn. So we know that he likes that. Banks, I think, is one of the top offensive linemen out there. I don't think he's the top tackle. I don't think he's the top guard. He's just one of those guys that is good at both and could be a day one starter potentially at left guard, but also kick out to tackle if Patrick Paul ends up not being good this year. So he's an intriguing player. I like Banks. Mock draft to Miami a lot early in the process. He's fallen a little bit down my board, but I still think he's good. Number 8 is Derrick Harmon, the defensive lineman from Oregon. Another trade down candidate, if we're going to be honest. Miami trades back to the early 20s. I think Harmon could be a solid pickup. He's got the ability to beat you with power, beat you with speed. He can stop the run. I like him more than Walter Nolan. I don't like him as much as Kenneth Grant. I think he's a solid option for the Dolphins if they traded back in the NFL draft and wanted to add a defensive lineman behind Zach Sealer. Nic Emmanwori is actually a player here in my 9 spot that I think would be a pick that the Dolphins could make at the 13th overall spot. Now, I don't want to make that selection because, one, I have Starks higher on my big board, and I get it. Emmanwori is DK Metcalf at safety, a perfect 10 on the RAS, unbelievable athlete, physical specimen that is versatile on the defensive back end as well. I just think Starks is a little bit better. I also don't think Miami's ultimately going with a safety in the first round. I know there's been some buzz from ESPN that they could take the first safety in this draft, but with the need at corner, D-line, and O-line being so present, I think Emmanwori and Starks are not options for me personally, but hey, I guess you never know. The final player for the 13th pick that I have on my top 10 is actually a wide receiver, Ted Aurora McMillan. We know that the future of Tyreek Hill in the Miami Dolphins is very questionable. This is his final year on the team, regardless if he gets traded or not. I know it's his final year because his cap hits $52.8 million next season, and you could save $36 million in cap space if you cut him prior to June 1st. So if you know that you were going to cut him, or you know that you were actually going to trade him going further into this offseason, why not take the 6'4", outside physical X receiver that could complement Jalen Waddle and Malik Washington oh so well? I think McMillan's good. I know there's questions about his play speed and his overall speed, but I think the physical profile that he displays in the mid 4.5s, maybe high 4.5s, 40, doesn't scare me away. He's been comped to Devontae Parker. He's been comped to Mike Evans. I don't know where he'll be ultimately in the NFL, maybe somewhere in between. But I would contemplate taking McMillan at 13 if the Dolphins knew, and you told me that Tyreek Hill was being traded this offseason. So let me know, would you consider drafting a wide receiver in the first round of the NFL draft? I think the only way you would contemplate that and make a pick is if you knew Tyreek Hill was being traded in mid-June, July, August. But I would still lean no because the other needs are big. And if the wide receiver room was just Jalen Waddle, Nick Westbrook-Ikini, and Malik Washington, I think that's good enough to still make things happen with your running back room and tight end room. All right, let's move over to my big board at the second round. The Dolphins obviously hold the 48th pick. Now, some of these guys are likely going to be drafted ahead of the Miami Dolphins. Some of them might be on the board and be drafted way after the Dolphins. My number one guy is Donovan Jackson, the offensive lineman from Ohio State. I think he's a first-round player. I think the Texans could take him with the 25th overall pick. But we did a Chat Sports live mock draft here a couple days ago, and we got Jackson at 48 because people just kept on passing him up. If the NFL world passes him up, I would have a hard time doing that for Miami. I know defensive line is such a big need for the Dolphins, but I would take him at 48 if he's there, no hesitation. But my top two defensive linemen for Miami in the second round, TJ Sanders from South Carolina and Darius Alexander from Toledo. I love the two of those guys. Sanders, an explosive athlete on the defensive line, one of the best pass rush win rates last season in the SEC. Darius Alexander, a great blend of run stopping and rushing the passer. But the question with him, is he going to be able to play at an elite level at the NFL after playing at a low-level MAC school at the college level? I also think, just quickly mentioning, Jonah Savayanea is another offensive line option for Miami at 48, a really good zone run scheme guy that fits the Dolphins' need. And then a couple sneaky D linemen here, Alfred Collins, and also if the Dolphins did want to go safety in the second round, Xavier Watts is my top safety in round 2. Kevin Winston Jr. from Penn State just missed this list. I have Watts slightly ahead of him. But the truth is, with the second round pick that the Miami Dolphins own, the big board would change drastically depending on the 13th pick. And I know some fans out there, and I've seen it in the comment section, might actually say the Dolphins should not stay away from corner at 48, even if they take one at 13, because it's such a big need. Some fans want to double dip. I would not do that. So if the Dolphins do take Will Johnson or Barron at 13, I would take all those corners like Siobhan Revel, Benjamin Morrison, Trey Amos off my second round big board and focus more on trenches, safety, and maybe even a tight end spot. So the first round pick Miami makes will ultimately depend a lot on what I think Miami would do and what I would want to do with that 48th selection. But let's head to the third round here, where Miami holds the 98th pick, which is one of the last 5 picks of the first round. Andrew Mukuba is my top guy, the safety from Texas. I ultimately think he goes maybe late round 2, early round 3. I don't think he's going to be there at 98. But if Mukuba is available at pick 98, I do not care about defensive line. I do not care about offensive line. I am taking him because I believe in him as a player so much. Tate Ratledge, another similar styled player where I think he's going to go a lot earlier than people think and be a mid to late second round pick potentially. But if he's there at the end of round 3, I'm taking him. Shamar Turner's another great option. I have him slightly above CJ West, the defensive lineman from Indiana. I'm becoming higher and higher on Charles Grant, a developmental offensive lineman from William and Mary, but I think he could develop really nicely and either be an offensive tackle or an offensive guard for Miami at the next level. I like Wyatt Millum from West Virginia. I like some of these safeties like Billy Bowman. Jonas Sanker just missed this list. Dorian Strong is a really good late day 2 option as well. One of the good 6'2" corners from Virginia Tech that I like. Marcus Membou is another offensive lineman that intrigues me from Purdue. Dolphins met with him at the NFL Combine, by the way. He can be a 3rd-round option. All right, that's going to do it for my big board. You saw my top 10 players in the 1st round, 2nd round, and 3rd round. To round out the show, as we're here at draft week, this is my draft strategy, and it will not change unless somehow the Dolphins make a big-time move, whether they sign someone, trade someone, which will not happen. I do not anticipate it happening. I am going with corner, safety, defensive line, or offensive line in the first 3 picks. I am. 4 biggest needs for the Dolphins. Unfortunately, Chris Grier has pigeonholed himself into drafting a little bit for need. So I think they should do that, take the best player on their board at one of those 4 positions with the first 3 picks, and then once you get into the 4th round where you have 2 picks in the 5th round, you go PPA, whether it's a QB, tight end, wide receiver, running back. Whoever's on your board, it doesn't matter. No one is off limits once you get to the 4th and 5th round, but I do think you have to take one of the players at corner, safety, in trenches with the first 3 selections. And we will still have you covered with videos on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, leading up to the NFL Draft, where we'll be live on Thursday evening for the first round of the NFL Draft. It'll be live on Friday for day 2, and it'll be live on Saturday for day 3 as well. So make sure you're subscribed for the top Dolphins draft coverage on YouTube.